Hello, I'm Svitek, 360 Creative Coach. And in this episode, I wanted to talk about something based on what I'm seeing with my friends, but I think it goes beyond that because I see it on social media as well. And it's this idea of quitting your job so you can do what you want to do. And listen, I think it's great to have belief in oneself and so forth and to take risks in life. I certainly am someone that takes plenty of risks. But the thing of it is, like with investing, the real trick of it is to minimize the risk and maximize the upside. It's called disproportionate risk reward ratio, right? And I I get the sense that at least with my friends, there's just a level of frustration with the jobs that they have, and so they just want to get away from it. And so I really want to explore this in finer detail to provide some guidelines of when you know it's okay to take that risk because you've minimized it versus you're just kind of blindly doing something and it can hurt you in unintended ways. Before I get into it, I would like to take the opportunity to invite you to subscribe if you haven't already done so. That way you get all the various lessons and episodes that I put out right when I put them out. Thank you if you just did, and thank you if you already were. It truly does mean a lot to me, as I hope it does for you. So, number one, I think it's partly a mental thing for you. Before I get into the specific checklist, but I think my friends, get frustrated with me when I say that because it's like I don't believe in their ability to make it. And conversely, just recently as last week, someone said to me, hey, like, you should be totally doing your own thing and so forth. And I said to them, like, listen, all the things that are in your mind about what I should be doing, they're in my mind of what I want to do. But I'm also not egotistical enough in my mind to think that I should be further ahead than I am. I'm exactly where I should be. And I'm okay with that because I know I can get to the things that I want. But as of right here, right now, I accept that I'm perfectly along my path. Someone I forget the exact quote, but someone posted recently that when you make popcorn, all the kernels, the little kernels are all the same. They get heated for the same amount of time, at the same amount of temperature, and yet some pop sooner than others. So, when you pop is an individual thing. And it's really metaphorical of, just basically our own journeys in life. There's no timeline. And the comparative thinking just really doesn't work. Because if that was the case, all things being considered, all popcorn should pop at the same time, right? When you make it. So that's really what it's trying to illustrate. And so for me, yes, would I like to be further ahead than I am? Sure, yes. I'm not going to lie about that. But that doesn't mean I don't look at my life and be like, you know what? This is a great spot I'm in. I know I want to do more, but this is where I'm meant to be. And so it's an honest conversation with yourself. And again, it doesn't mean you have to that you don't believe in yourself. I believe in myself, but I have the confidence and I have the patience to get to where I want to get to. And I believe that I will. Right? And so for me, no, I'm not going to just, when people tell me like, oh, I want to quit my job, to me, that's impatience. It's rash thinking. It's an attempt to speed up the process when they ultimately are not responsible for that. They have to go along the journey. We don't get to skip the line. We don't get to skip the path. It just doesn't work. But as far as the practicality of it, I think there's a big detriment done, when you listen to podcasts with successful people and things like that. Some do a good job of it by clarifying, these next things that I'm about to highlight. Others just kind of glance over it. And so it romanticizes this idea that they just took this giant risk and it paid off. Like the thing of it is, if you study Richard Branson, right, with Virgin, the thing of it is, okay, was that a risk? Yes, it was. But he always knew, he basically got the planes for his airline in such a way where if it didn't work out, he could sell them and so forth. And he only kind of really committed to a year. So if it didn't work out in a year, he was fine, right? It was going to cost him some money, but not as much money as people thought it would. Obviously, it paid off, and the rest is sort of history. But again, that idea of low risk, high yield, and that's the way we got to kind of think about it. And so here's kind of things you have to consider in order to really be able to even consider before you quit your job. Number one, does your side income come close to what you earn? Right? Does it come close enough to what you earn? Chances are, at least for my friends, it doesn't. And so, especially like my friends that live in LA, and if their side hustle is getting them $5,000, oh boy, that's going to be a problem. Okay. But tied into that is, can you really turn your side hustle into a full-time job? So maybe they are just earning $5,000, but if they really went in full-time, this is kind of something that they have to assess, but maybe they could go from 5,000 and really increase that to what they earn at their regular job. But, really, I would, sit with that and really think about that before just being like, yeah, I could do that. It's not a matter of belief. There's a practicality that I think often gets overlooked because, again, we romanticize the idea of success and getting there faster. The other part of it, and I would say a bare minimum, is having 6 months worth of emergency funding. So if you don't make any money for 6 months, can you afford to pay your rent, your car insurance, your phone bill, your internet, all that stuff, right? Can you afford that? And also, don't forget, your business expenses. So not only do you have your living expenses, but now if you are a business, the cost of acquisition for customers and so forth. Can you afford that? Which is essentially marketing. And also now, let's say at your regular job, they were paying for Adobe, the creative suite. Now that's going to be up to you to pay it. So can you afford that on a monthly basis? And all these, programs, software, whatever things that you might need. And oftentimes, like, for example, can you afford upfront costs? So, in visual effects, sometimes, the visual effects artists buy 3D templates that already exist out there. But, even if they're like $40, that's $40 the visual effects artist is eating up front. Sure, he's going to get that money back from the client because it's going to be billed to the client, but can he eat that cost at the front? So something to really consider. And I say 6 months because for me, I think a bare minimum really should be like 12 months, really. Honestly, most of the people that I listen to on podcasts, when you really study them, they had an 18-month runway. Most of them. So, this blind idea that I'm going to quit my job and so forth, it's like, okay, and what are you going to use to pay your bills, right? So you got to have the emergency funding to be able to pull something like that off. The other two questions to really ask yourself, and you have to be honest, is, are you disciplined enough to do this? Because there's no boss to push you and so forth. You have to be your own boss. And so, there's people that I know, they love the idea of quote working for themselves, but, they would get up at 10 a.m., play video games for a while, eat a bowl of cereal, watch some TV and things like that, and not really get started till 5 p.m. And if that might work for you, maybe, but I wouldn't bank on it. You really have to be disciplined. You now are your own boss, and you have to really put yourself to work. No one else is going to micromanage you. So that's a big part of it. And the other thing is, are you willing and ready to work 12-hour days? In some sense, entrepreneurship is kind of what I'll call it, for lack of a better term, really is the business where, one quits their 9-to-5 job so that way, and 40 hours a week, so that way they can work 80 hours a week instead, right? It and it's true. A lot of people. I remember like one of my friends. He was honest enough with himself. He's like, "Dang, like I see you, and you're working like 14-hour days," and I'm like, "Well, that's because I love it. I really do." He's like, "Yeah, I don't know if I love it," and I'm like, "Well, then that's fine. Listen, no one's saying you have to do X, Y, and Z, but if this is what you want, then that's the cost of it, and so forth. So it's not right for everybody." And I think that's another big fallacy of this whole thing is I think by pushing these narratives of people that like quit their job then became successful, I think it just forces people to think that's the only option, and I don't think that's well. I know that it's not true. There's multiple avenues, and you can be successful with a corporate job as well, and so forth. So I don't think the world functions if everyone just quit their job and pretended that they were going to work for themselves. So those are my thoughts as far as if you are considering quitting your job to go pursue your dream. I think I would caution you, not because I don't believe in you, but really test it out. Do the side hustle thing, really grind it out, and see how much you can make in terms of that side hustle monetarily. And when the timing is right, based on the questions that I posed to you, then go for it. Okay? If you have any questions or thoughts of your own, if you agree, disagree, by all means, please share. Whether down in the comment section or hit me up on social media at Svitek. I would happily converse with you. These are just my thoughts. Anyway, thank you. And if someone in your life would benefit from this episode, by all means, please share it with them. I certainly would appreciate it. And I appreciate you. I'll see you next time.